Abandoning her costumed identity, Jessica still worked with Lindsay at their private investigators agency. She even helped the X-Men by providing them a temporary home after an encounter with the Beyonder. Eventually, the two women traveled to Madripoor on a case that brought them into contact with Wolverine when he was using the alias of Patch. Remaining in the island nation for about 2 years, Jessica eventually returned to the States. She had an encounter with Jillian Woods and the current Spider-Woman, Julia Carpenter, that seemingly restored her full powers. However, an encounter with the criminal Charlotte Witter led to Witter stealing Jessica's powers to become the new Spider-Woman. Jessica helped renowned psychic Madame Web mentor a teenage heir to the Spider-Woman title named Maddie Franklin, who had defeated Witter to claim the mantle herself. Over time, Jessica slowly regained her powers, although they were unstable. A case in New York involving a missing Maddie led Jessica to cross paths with another detective named Jessica Jones. After a brief misunderstanding wherein Drew repeatedly zapped Jones and Jones put her through a kitchen table, the two former superheroines teamed up to save Maddie from Denny Haynes, a drug dealer who was using her to manufacture a superdrug derived from mutant growth hormone, as well as from a misguided speedball, who was attempting a sting operation against Haynes and who panicked when Drew and Jones barged in, releasing a barrage of kinetic energy that temporarily incapacitated Jones. Ultimately, Franklin was rescued, and with Drew's help, got cleaned up. Later, Jessica sought a permanent solution to her fluctuating powers and thus accepted a deal with Hydra. In exchange, Jessica joined SHIELD to spy on the counter-terrorist organization for Hydra. However, Nick Fury discovered this and thus used her to spread false intelligence. What neither Jessica or Fury knew, was that an enormous alien Skrull cell was in charge of the process to revive and stabilize her powers. After reviving her powers, Queen Varank used her DNA to enable her to perfectly impersonate Jessica for at least a year before she and her vast Skrull army fell in the final stages of their pre-planned invasion of Earth. After an undefined, extended period of time, potentially 2 years at the most, Jessica, along with numerous other individuals, were rescued by Iron Man after being held captive in a Skrull spaceship which was orbiting the Earth with the rest of the Skrull fleet. Her return to Earth, however, was not as well received as most of the other freed captives. A number of superhuman heroes and criminals were easily reminded of the Skrull Queen Varank, who had orchestrated the entire invasion against Earth. Their negative aspects on Jessica were immediately clear and threatening to her. Wolverine soon recruited her into the latest incarnation of New Avengers. A few of her new teammates were suspicious of Jessica at first, Ronan and Luke Cage in particular. She immediately began working to prove her worth to the group, assisting Luke Cage and Jessica Jones in search for their newborn daughter Danielle. When Norman Osborn constructed his own Avengers, the New Avengers arranged to trap, weaken, and duel Osborn and his Dark Avengers in order to expose the identities of his members. Jessica was to deceive Osborn and his government-sponsored Avengers to a remote location in New York to ambush. Norman, however, deduced her deception after his broken deal with her fellow Avenger Cage and instead sent the Hood and his gang, which engaged Jessica and the New Avengers. Escaping from the fight, the New Avengers regrouped back at Captain America's safe house, angered and confused with Jessica feeling responsible for the setup and failing to deceive Norman Osborn. Feeling like the most screwed over person on Earth due to Varank's actions, Jessica was approached with an offer to join SWORD by Abigail Brand, which she accepted. Her first mission took her to Madripoor where she took on a Skrull posing as Spider-Man. After run-ins with Hydra, another Skrull, and the new Thunderbolts, Jessica eventually found a wayward Skrull and she took it down with the help of her teammates in the New Avengers. After the mission was over, Brand offered her different, new opportunities for jobs to do with S.W.O.R.D. After the siege on Asgard and the fall of Osborn, Steve Rogers took the place of Norman as USA's top cop. Jessica joined the Avengers. During the first day of this Avengers team's establishment they came under attack by two foes. The first was the rogue Wonder Man, who was convinced the Avengers were detrimental to the world. The second was longtime Avengers foe Kong the Conqueror. After the situation with Kong was resolved, the Avengers fought against the Hood, who was attempting to retrieve the Infinity Gems. During the Serpent's invasion of Midgard, Jessica realized her feelings for her fellow Avenger Hawkeye, with whom she started a relationship. This blossoming romance came under some stress when a returned Norman Osborn and a resurgent HAMMER attacked the Avengers. HAMMER now included Hydra, and Jessica attempted to fool some agents by claiming to still be part of the organization, but she failed. When the coming of the Phoenix Force led the Avengers into conflict with the X-Men of Utopia, Spider-Woman was there to invade the island. After the war against the X-Men, Spider-Woman was called upon to join the primary Avengers squad, as part of Tony Stark's plan of expanding the Avengers. Jessica was one of the Spider heroes from Earth 616 recruited into the Spider Army after defeating Luthor and the Spiderlings, along with Spider-Girl, Spider-Man, Silk, and Scarlet Spider. When the Resistance was visiting Earth 928 and encountered Spider-Man, Otto Octavius, with his own army, they attracted the attention of the Inheritors. 30 Spider-Woman followed Silk with Spider-Man Noir to an unknown reality where they were being tracked by Brix and Bora. Spider-Man Noir was wounded and the trio escaped to Earth 90214 to allow him to recover from his injuries. After this, she was sent by Spider-Man to Earth 001 to gather more information on the Inheritors after encountering and replacing her doppelganger from Loom World, who was Morlun's lover. She was able to gather intelligence in regards to the Master Weaver and his role in the conflict, which helped the Spider Army ultimately win the battle against the Inheritors. After the battle with the Inheritors, Jessica decided to quit the Avengers in order to start a new life and to focus on helping ordinary civilians.